So this is going to be the fourth video in my Art Improver series, which is based on ballpoint pen, but is constructed to help you improve your overall art. In the first video, I showed you all the basic strokes to use with a pen. That improves your art in other areas. In the second video, I showed you how to hold the pen. That also improves your art in other areas. In the third video, I showed you how to choose a paper type to suit a ballpoint pen. That will also help you to guide you on your choice of papers for other mediums. In this video, I'm going to show you the different pens. Now, you're saying to yourself, John, there is only one pen. You're probably thinking about the Bic Crystal, and there is the Bic Crystal that I'm going to show you. But there are different pens, and I'm going to show you the reasons I use different pens to draw my ballpoint pen pictures. But also, it helps you to become wiser, I would say, on your choice of mediums for other art projects that you might do. So you've got the concept of the paper, the types of pens, the basic strokes. They help you with other mediums, and also the application of the pens to the paper will help you with other mediums, and I'll show you that in the next video. I've kind of touched on it already, but I'll show you that in the next video. But without further ado, let's go and have a look at the pens. So on the screen right now, you can see that I've got two types of paper. Okay, this one is erring towards the sort of paper I would use for a ballpoint pen picture, and many other mediums as it happens, and I will tell you about that at another time. You also notice that there are 4 pens. Now I'm going to show you the pens on each of these papers. And the reason I'm going to do that is because each of these pens are different. Now I'll just explain what the pens are. I'll start with this one because it makes more sense. This is your bog standard, everyday Bic Crystal pen. The size of that nib is 1mm. Now, in reality, you can use that one pen for all your ballpoint pen work. But why would you use just one pen when you can actually improve it by using different pens? And that is a good lesson for other mediums. So that's the 1mm. We then have the large, which is a Bic Crystal 1.6mm. So that is over 0.5 millimeter larger than this one. And that's good for filling in large areas. Then we have this one. This one can be found in an opaque barrel, so a solid yellow barrel, but this one's translucent, as you can see, and this is called the Bic Crystal Fine, and the size of that nib is 0.8 millimeter, so exactly half of the large and a bit smaller than the medium. So this is a fine. Then we have the Bic Crystal Ultra Fine. I use all these pens at different times, and the difference between that and the fine is that this is 1mm smaller than the crystal, and that can be very helpful for ultra fine detail. Now this is 0.7 mil, the fine is 0.8, then you have the medium, which is 1 mil, and then you have the large, which is 1.6 mil. Now, there's not a lot of difference between all of them, is there? However, that does make a drastic difference on the paper, and I'm going to show you that now. The papers I have is, this is from an aqua pad, and this would be my second choice to use for a ballpoint pen. And this one is actually the Sennelier oil pastel pad. And the reason I've chosen this is because it's very soft paper. Sorry, it's very soft card. And it will show you in fine detail just the difference between each of these pens. So I'm now going to start with the largest one of these pens. Always do a little scribble before you start and make sure your pen nib is clean. Now this is on the more textured paper, and it will fill in larger areas much quicker for you. It's got quite a thick line. You may not look it on the screen, but believe me, that is quite a thick line. This is going to put more ink on the paper and quicken up areas where you want a lot of ink. So you can see that hasn't really taken me long at all just to fill in that inch square. You would then go different with your basic strokes. So, but what I'm going to do now is, and wipe your nib every time. What I'm going to do now is beside it, I'm going to show you what that looks like on this softer card. So you can see that's actually quite a thick line, isn't it? I'm going to zoom in because that's probably going to be better if I do that. Okay, now just to show the difference, I'm now going to show you the 1mm, which is half a mil smaller. And you can see already, I hope, that it's not covering as quickly. And that gives you an essence of control over the amount of ink you're applying to your paper. Now for me to get to that, it's going to take a lot longer. You can see, look, it's already taking longer. And it's because there's not so much ink being produced and the line isn't so thick either. And I just keep going. The black isn't so intense. You really would have to go for quite a lot longer to get that to the same point as your 1.6 mil. So there we go. It gives you a different look. I hope you can see that on screen. So I'm going to put a line next to this line just to show you the difference. That's 1.6 and that's 1.0. Okay, so you can see the difference. I hope you can see the difference. So what I'm going to do now is to do the next largest one, which is the 0.8, which is the fine. Right, you can see already, I hope, that there's a finer line. And that's going to take just as long to fill in as what the 1mm did. You can see that it's leaving white showing a lot more, so you can see how the thinner line would be good for detail. And I have to cross hatch to try and get that filled in. Look, I'm not really getting rid of that white too quickly, am I? Eventually it will fill in. Now there is a reason I would use this pen on a larger area, but I'll tell you that in another video. Now let me put this line next door to the other lines. That's 0.8. It's not a lot of difference, but there is a difference. So now we will go to the 0.7, and this is an ultra fine nib. You can see that you can get a very thin line with this. And it's going to take some filling in to get rid of that white of the paper. You can actually see a vast difference between each one of these, I hope. That one looks very intensively black. There's a lot of paper showing through because I haven't filled it right in, but it is intensively black, whereas these look more on the grey side. and it's because it's just taking more ink off onto the paper. Now this is taking a lot longer to fill in, but it gives you a really intense nice line because of the thin nib. So that's finer than that. You can see that that's looking quite rough. That's a medium texture, and then this is very fine. So I'm going to put that line here, and that's 0.7. So on this piece of paper, I think you can see how the lines progressively, there's not much difference between these two, but how the lines progressively get thicker. So look, between 0.7 and 1.6, there is a vast difference. And the reason I would use these are for varying reasons. I would use the 1.6 for filling in large dark black areas, and I would use the 0.7 for like probably doing the thin lines around eyes, any small detail stuff. So that's a 0.7. This is a 1.6. I mean, look at that difference. There is a vast difference. Now, the reason I call this an improver art video is because that's a very important lesson, whether it's a ballpoint pen or whether it's anything else. That it doesn't matter whether you feel they are the same, they are different. You will have different oil pastels, you will have different coloured pencils, you will have different thicknesses of nibs, different intensities of pigment, different hardnesses. There's a difference between them all. As it happens, the ballpoint pen is quite a standard thing overall, but the nib changes. The ink is the same, the basic concept of the pen is the same, but you have a different thickness of nib, and that's what makes the difference. And you will find out with all other mediums, whether you're going from cheap to expensive, to a large to a small, to a pigmented to a non-pigmented, you will find all these differences. And it's up to you to try and find the best for you. And this is where my concept of this ballpoint pen improving all art comes in. So I hope that makes sense. It does to me, but then it's in my head. So I hope that makes a lot of sense, and in any event, even if it doesn't, it's helping you to do ballpoint pen pictures, and I hope you have a lot of fun doing this, because it can be a lot of fun. Last thing I wanted to add was I'll get my extra ultra fine one. When I do areas like this that have a lot of pigment on the paper, sometimes it's nice to then get the thin pen and go over the top of that, because it will fill in all the crevices and all the paper marks that you want to get rid of. So whereas the ball is skipping across the texture of the paper, this one is digging into the texture of the paper a lot more. But you need to cover the vast area first before you do this. So it's like putting on a thin wash of paint and then going over with your fine detail, if you like. And this will fill in all these detailed areas and get rid of the paper texture for you. So you can see how you need the large one for the speed and the thinner ones for technically blending. That's how I use them. I hope it all makes sense. It's quite a difficult thing to explain, that a ballpoint pen can improve your art overall in any medium. But I hope I made sense. In here it makes sense, but it's getting it out to you and letting you see where it does make sense. I think the last bit where I said about blending in with the thinner pen over the top of the larger pen, I think that made a lot of sense, because it's kind of blending in and filling in all the detailed areas that the larger ball would just skip across. So I hope that you have fun, even if you don't use it in context with other mediums. I hope you have fun trying to learn how to ballpoint pen draw, because at the moment you've had 4 videos and each one of them has improved your ballpoint pens overall, I would hope. And I'd love to see some of your pictures if you decided to have a go at this. Like I've said in the videos, choose the right paper, choose the right pen or pens, and use the right basic strokes. And use a very, very, very light touch. And I'll get to that in the next video. So, whomever, wherever you are, please have a great day, a great week and a great year, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.